Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to a Better Life discussion. The Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis, and it's here to offer a safe space to confront, compare, correlate, and expand spirituality concepts from a psychological lens, bringing insight, actionable tips, and real world advice to help you and I lead a better life. I'm very, very happy to be here with Dr. Anahy Fonseca to talk about health and well being and holistic health. And just wanted to bring to us, what is holistic health? It is an approach that recognizes and address simply put, the interconnectedness of the body, the mind, and the spirit. So Joanna de Angelis, through her books and teaches, emphasizes that health and well-being are deeply interconnected with both our physical and spiritual dimensions, right, Anahy? But Anahy, as you know, as a good friend, uh, this has been quite a difficult year personally for me. And I've been through several professional transitions, and you recognize potential burnout. And I know that a holistic health approach to burnout specifically would probably look at the interconnectedness of everything in me, right? In my physical, my emotional, mental, spiritual being, and then would seek to address not the symptoms, but the underlying causes of what is such a difficult state for many of us. In my case, Anaí, I can see that the causes of my burnout were almost, I always say that I was almost there, but they were linked to workplace stress, for example. I was dealing with excessive workload, a little bit of lack of control, right, with transitions, as well as unclear expectations, poor work life balance. I know. I also know that emotionally, I was going through exhaustion, dealing with chronic stress, and really feeling overwhelmed and drained all the time. And at the same time, because of those changes, I was going through a lot of isolation, right? Feeling perhaps that I did not have the support from former colleagues, coworkers, friends, and all of it was leading me to burnout. I could also say that perhaps there are issues that come to play in cases like that beyond what I went through, at least from what I recognize. That are, for example, perfectionism, right? When you expect so much of yourselves that you create a cycle of stress and disappointment and more stress, or perhaps a mismatch of values where what we do in our lives, be it domestic lives or professional lives, really clash with personal values, right? Or even poor lifestyle choices. But wanted to know, you are really an expert on this subject of health, holistic health, and you know a lot about burnout as well. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what Joanna de Angelis talk about this, and perhaps what are some healing mechanisms that you may know. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, hello everyone. It's nice to be back
Yes,
here talking with my good friend Marcia. Yes. And as a psychiatrist, let's tell everyone a secret, Marcia. I was
yes,
kind of upset with Marcia because of course, I understood that she was heading towards a burnout, right?
yeah,
And so let's pay attention to each other. first of
Yeah.
all, right? And as you said, because isolation and thinking that friends cannot, understand you, your needs, for instance, because if we have burnout, usually the concept is related to the way that we are performing at work, socially, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And with this idea that we are not good enough, we're not doing, what people expect from us. So I can tell you, Marcia, and everyone, that in the medical field, for instance, and health professionals in general, they tend to burn out these days, a lot, because all this expectation, and because usually in my time when I was a student many decades ago, right, this diagnosis wouldn't even exist as a,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
we never heard of that. And life was slower. It was pre social media and all the stuff. So of course there was this kind of expectation we had. Imagine in a, a medical student that in graduation, right, that we have, you have your professor saying, well, you are going to be responsible for someone's health and someone's ability to overcome an illness, even,
Yeah.
maybe the person will die if you are not good enough. So can you imagine the stress? But of course this always existed in different fields and all. But we had time. We experienced things in other, yeah, I think in other, it was sometimes even deeper than we do today, because we
Mm-hmm.
don't have time in these days that we are living to reflect, to meditate many times, to do what we know when we read Joanna and Jung and other authors that are saying that meditation, for instance, is very good. Prayers are very good for our health,
Mm-hmm.
mental health, spiritual health. And this is all part of the holistic view that everything is interconnected. But we never talked about that on those days in the medical field.
Uh-huh.
But it was like, of course, we had all the stress of studying a lot, of being worried with that, but we were not so worried with what other people besides the professors, of course, that would grade you, or
Uh-huh.
of the, okay, you are okay to go on, or no, you are not okay, do the course again, and things like that. The pass and fail that we all
Mm-hmm.
have when we are in a college, we are college students, or in a graduation like engineering, medicine, and others. But the thing is that we had time, first of all. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't have all this, social media didn't exist.
The
If you,
distractions, right? This
yes.
immense amount of distraction that we have today didn't exist
Yeah,
then.
we,
Yeah.
we had gossip. you know, oh, that person said that you this and that. Oh, I'm mad at them. But you would see, you would talk, we would talk more with each other. And nowadays, people see in social media things. They said, okay, I'll give likes or dislikes, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but really talk to someone as we are doing. And I'm very grateful that we have all this technology. Don't misunderstand me, but that we can, of course, be talking to people, and
Mm-hmm.
we can talk with each other here, and we are looking at each other, you and I, and we have all this energy of friendship that I've, of course, people feel it when they listen to our podcast and all that we have this energy and this feeling
Mm-hmm.
of being among friends. But at the same time, we have so much stuff, so much information, so much things in the social medias that, and to see what this person is talking about, what has he or she is doing, the selfies, I'm in that place and I'm feeling great. So everybody has to be in that place to feel great, and people really believe in that kind of stuff. This is all part of the burnout, because
Mm.
I see my colleagues, for instance, you are talking about colleagues at work and all this stuff. So maybe many times we don't think that when we are really stressed, some, or even in quick communication, like
Mm-hmm.
in mobile, in different medias in the mobile, so
Mm-hmm.
that we don't cite names, but of course, but even if I put an emoji, I'm laughing and hearts and all this stuff. Many times you're not looking the person in the face, so you don't
Yes,
understand exactly what the person's saying. And everybody is so upset and so stressed with a lot of information
we
and
are.
worries
Yeah, yeah.
that many times people want to pay attention to, you're feeling, unless you have a friend like unfortunately Marcia has, that is a psychiatrist, and I said, you look a little pale, what's going on with you? Of course. But if you don't have, many times your friend will not be able, because not because he does, or he or she doesn't like you, or they are not worried about you, but because sometimes they're not paying attention, because their attention is being called, in other
Yeah,
places. So
yeah.
when you talked about isolation, about expectations,
Mm-hmm.
many times we are projecting onto others
Yeah, yeah.
our own expectations, and then sometimes we have a hard time setting limits, because we have to set limits. But how am I going to set limits to others, to say, this is my limit, I cannot go further than that, because it's not going to be healthy for me. I'm not even be able to work as best as I could if I do this or that. We can
Mm-hmm.
talk to each other, even with people that, our bosses or whatever, or people that we work for, and we also, with when we are in a team, to
Mm-hmm.
our colleagues, who is best in doing what, who needs some time, but that's human, all about human resources.
And
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 you,
and and pausing, right? Just I love what you said. It's the humanity of being human, and we're losing that somehow, right?
yes, because sometimes we are so distracted, we are so
Mm-hmm.
called from the outside world, because to pay attention in someone and to have a sympathy and empathy, to have empathy that, oh, I have been in hers or his shoes.
Yeah.
I have to connect to the person, and I have to try to understand what he or she is feeling, right? But if my attention is other,
Mm-hmm.
other, in other place,
Yeah.
it's elsewhere.
Yeah.
Of course, how am I going to even understand what my colleague, my friend, my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is feeling, and try to understand her or his point of view? So I think this is very important, Marcia, that if we disconnect
Mm-hmm.
from ourselves in the first place, how are we supposed to be connected with others to
Very good
realize,
point. Yeah, very good point.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think, that it's this this diagnosis of burnout, and we see a lot of people with burnout. I think we are lacking time, quality time. As we say
Mm-hmm.
to mothers and fathers, you need quality time with your children.
Yeah.
Let's have quality time with ourselves.
Yeah.
So, for instance, reading Joanna's books, for instance, that I strongly advise
Good
people,
plug, everyone.
right? So, when you read one of Joanna's sentence, if you read
Mhm.
really fast, oh, I don't understand that,
Yeah.
you are missing the point, because what she's calling us is to be with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to read not only with our eyes,
Yeah.
but to not only with our brains and minds, of
Uh-huh.
course, but with our hearts.
Yeah.
So I have been reading Joanna for the past, let's say, 20 years, more or
Uh-huh.
less.
Yeah.
And it's always something new
Yeah.
and a meaning that it's behind the words. And
Yeah.
it's different from year to year, month to month, because we are expanding our consciousness, and life is unfolding for us.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, our egos are perceiving some of this stuff, but don't forget that we have our higher self,
That's
that
right.
it's actually who is in the in command center, let's say, of our psyche, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the ego doesn't have time to meditate, to listen to the inner voice, how am I going to suppose that I can choose in this holistic way, considering all aspects of my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because maybe, Marcia, I will be possessed, let's say. Jung says that we can be possessed by our complexes, right?
Uh,
Let's say we are always talking about the inner child with the childish expectations. I have to be loved, and to be loved, I have to be pretty, smart, what else? Checklist. Pretty,
yes.
smart, perform nicely, and better than nicely if I can, right? Because then my boss, whatever, my colleagues will love me. In that moment, I'm projecting in my work, because we go to our works every day. For instance, if we are a
Mm-hmm.
team, if we are submitted at some kind of bosses in different levels, managers, this and that, and I see these people every day, and I talk to them. So we developed a kind of intimacy that
Yeah.
it's work. You are professional, but
It,
your
it, it's what I call, sorry, it's what I call professional intimacy, which is awesome, right? But it's still a distant type of intimacy. But go ahead.
yes, and has limits, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
but the thing is that our unconscious goes to work with us. It's not only the ego and our consciousness; the unconscious accompanies us, right?
Yeah.
So, in our complex too, we have a lot of people inside of ourselves, a lot of experiences, let's say, a lot
It's
of
it's a crowded life, right?
yes, yes, inside of us.
Yeah.
So what we have to understand is that, of course, in its school, it's all right. But if we know ourselves, and
Hmm.
if we give ourselves this quality time with our inner family, let's say the
Hmm.
different people that are subpersonalities, Jung says, that are
Hmm.
within our personal unconscious, and that are connected to a lot of archetypal issues. Okay,
Hmm.
just to point this out. Okay, so if all of us go to work, right?
Yeah.
And I get to work, and at some point I feel I'm not doing well, and I didn't like the work that I did that day. And then I start thinking that my colleague is looking at me in a different way, or is
Uh-huh.
trying to compete with me, and that my boss didn't like exactly what I produced that day. But actually, I haven't looked at their faces. And actually, in the first place, I was not pleased with myself. And I
Hmm.
have been under pressure of all this that you talked about, giving your own example. And just to make a point, I'm not talking about Marcia, I'm talking about general, right?
Thank you.
Yes, just to clarify, this is an important point. So what's going to happen is that I will relive, let's say, an
Yeah.
experience from the past with my
Yeah.
brothers, sisters, whatever, with my father or mother, when they said, oh, you are a bad boy or a bad girl, you did that you are not supposed to do, or you could have done better and you
Mhm.
didn't because you are lazy,
Yes.
because you don't see, haven't all of us at some point, or maybe many of us had
Mhm.
listened to things like that. You were lazy,
Mhm.
you could have taken an A in that exam, but you stayed reading. For instance, if we're talking some secrets to everybody that are listening to us, because we share experiences as human beings.
Uh-huh.
When I was teenager, I loved to read,
Uh-huh.
and usually romances and
Uh-huh.
things like that. I love to read. And then of course I had an exam, for instance, in school. I had to hide to read,
Uh-huh.
because, for instance, if my mother, who was a very accomplished lady, she was a professor, a
Uh-huh.
scientist, and she would think that romance are really silly, you are wasting
Mhm.
your time. And fiction, for instance, I love science fiction to these days and things like that.
Uh-huh.
This is all silly. You have to study to take
Uh-huh.
to have A's and whatever, especially A's, not B's, because that's not cool. That's not what you are able to achieve. So what happened if she opened the door and I was laying with a wonderful book and reading, in my bed and having a lot of fun? She would say, what are you doing? Don't you have an exam? You are
I
going
hear
to
you.
perform
Yeah.
badly and this and that. For instance, just an example.
Mm.
So, and maybe, Marcia, we have here synchronicity,
Yeah.
because just it was not plain, it's unscripted,
Uh,
everyone. But when I'm giving you this example, I just remember just now that I had a dream this night,
uh.
because people, that's another secret. I used to hate mathematics, because I love everything that it's written,
Yeah.
and words and all this stuff. But as a very, very, very nice, I love him, poet that we have here in my state, here, Rio Grande do Sul, that
Uh.
is called Mario Quintana.
Yes.
And he said, he was my favorite because I connect so much with when he says, I hated math. The only part that I liked was when there was the equations with the letters, because I would think of some sentence, nice sentence in poems that I could write with those letters, but I
I
couldn't,
love
you know,
it.
I
Yeah.
couldn't care less the result of the equation.
I love
So,
it.
what I
Yeah.
think it's important. Okay, what happened is that, so coming back to my dream, to this day, I just dreamed that I was in the school again, and I'm a medical doctor, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was with friends and all stuff. Maybe because I was talking to a friend, but also some parts of the day come in the dream. But this colleague from the past, she
Mm.
wanted to take, okay, let's go to the classroom, and I said, why do I have to go? It's math. I don't like. And I'm a medical doctor. Now I'm a psychiatrist. I don't need that anymore.
Yeah. It's
I
all in
work.
the past. I'm no longer a child. Yes.
Yeah, but of course, this is, of course, it has a lot of personal issues. We in
Yeah.
complexes, we have to always make this self-analysis and be in contact with our inner issues and stuff like that. But the thing is that when we are very demanded
Mhm.
to to be the best version of ourselves, but in a sense, not spiritually, but intellectually, and in our personas, so that
Yeah.
then I understand that people will like me, and then I understand that I will get a promotion, that it's so important to my life, even
Yeah.
if I go to burnout and and get sick and develop whatever. then I will, of course, be relieving stuff and emotions that are in my complexes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make you guilty, but it's a joke, of course. But maybe I dreamt about that because I was worried that we were going to record the podcast today. And Marcia
Uh-huh.
is my friend, but I know she's going to ask me a lot of stuff. So that's very important to you understand. It doesn't matter our persona, our
Yeah.
qualifications, our
Yeah.
curriculum, our titles. We all have these experiences of, and first of all, it's not Marcia, for instance, in this example. Of course, my friend could be a representation of you.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
freely making amplifications of the dream. But of course, and even Joanna,
Uh-huh.
that it's beautiful being a light teacher that only loves us and wants us to, to develop, to free ourselves of all these, difficulties that we still have in our psyche. But I could project onto her or onto Marcia that
Yeah.
all this pressure
Yeah.
to talk coolly and be smart, and
Yeah.
everyone will like what we are talking and do a good job, and projecting that. And maybe my dream said, because the self is behind the images of the dream. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the self wants the ego to calm
Mm-hmm.
down, to
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to the inner dynamics, to the psych dynamics. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, "You are not here to accomplish
Mm-hmm.
anything. You are
Mm-hmm.
here, for instance, in our talks, to
Mm-hmm.
learn together, to exchange
Yeah.
ideas, to connect to the mentor and try to be the best as possible. She is not asking us to be perfect. Of course, the best in, let's say, channel
Mm-hmm.
to what whoever will be watching us
Yeah.
would help us to reflect on something as we are being helped by her,
Yes.
right? Yes. So this is the healing, I would think, for the burnout, to remember that we are in an experience, even if we have to choose something that later on I think, well, I haven't chosen, really nicely. I was afraid of this and that. Okay, it's okay because I can make mistakes
Yeah.
and I can, yep, learn from my mistakes if I just understand that this where these pressures are coming. So, for instance, mathematics is connected, and this is a very big secret, but everybody has figured out by now, with my mother complex because she was,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So of course, the going back to a classroom from, from senior or junior or high school, of course, is that maybe the ego is afraid of not performing so well.
Uh-huh.
And maybe I'm projecting, Joanna can tell us if I'm correct or not, in that great spiritual mother, let's say, the pressure that I'm feeling myself. This is my inner work to do. It's
Yeah.
not to, to project in my light teacher, let's say, if I've chosen her to be my
Mm-hmm.
light teacher, or even in my friend Marcia that is here with me. So this is inner work. And when we are afraid and when we are doubting ourselves, of course, if we have time, quality time, then I can meditate. I can look at, let's say, I'm examining my dream with all of you guys. I don't know how many people will be listening. But why is this so important? Because burnout is something inflicted by us, on ourselves, and in each other when we are asking people, oh, what's the problem with you? Why
Yeah.
haven't you performed so well as you always do?
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And I'm even wondering, I don't know if I'm going too far afield, but earlier a couple episodes ago, we talked about shadow, right? Shadow work, and in the discussion with shadow work, we talked about this self-destructive mechanism we use and it's very widespread today, especially in the youth, right? With many different things that are self-harming. But we as adults, we also do this by overworking or some lack of moderation in how we drink or party or whatever. It doesn't really. There's no connotation of this is okay, this is good. No, we fall prey to those types of self harm because same root cause of what we're talking here from a holistic health perspective. uh, all of the things that we repress and we hate about ourselves, right? So burnout or no burnout, there are some projections into like you said, your the mother figure or any other aspects that really betrays how complex we are. Don't you think, Anaí? The
Yes,
complexity
I,
of this emotional self is it's so hard, it's so much that we do things to ourselves and we hurt and we cry for help, but we are doing this to ourselves, which is a paradox.
I totally agree. You know, it's been, I think, I think more than 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Well, actually, maybe in the 90s or late
Mm,
or early 21st century, 20 years ago,
mm,
that the World Health Organization, uh, when um, when it described, all this complexity and well-being and health,
mm-hmm,
talks about the social, the physical, mental,
mm-hmm.
social aspects of health involved in
That's
health.
right. Mm-hmm.
But the spiritual part came only later, okay? And I don't think it's actually so official. They talked about, but it's not yet for all of the spiritual aspects of
Yeah,
dimension of human beings are important for globally to evaluate well-being and mental health. We are getting there. It
yeah,
has been in the discussion, but I don't think it's quite official. Okay,
uh-huh,
and I think if we talked about the spiritual part
yeah,
of, and I want to bring that because you said we are harming ourselves when we are not looking at ourselves from this holistic perspective, that it's that everything inside and outside, I would say, of us is interconnected and is part of our health globally. I mean,
yeah,
like in body, mind,
yeah.
socially, and spiritually. That's what
That's right.
Joanna and
Mhm.
even Jung brings to us. But then I would bring one thing that the spiritist knowledge and Joanna specifically bring to the discussion, that they go deeper than, right? That because when in the medical field we are able to talk about religiosity and spirituality,
Mhm.
it's always from the point of view of this lifetime.
That's
When we
right.
are
Even
able,
even when we expand in it to more than matter, but it's still in the confines of one existence, right? Yeah.
yes, we can already, thanks to all the efforts of, many scientists in the medical field and psychological field, and that are bring for academia all this the research about
Uh-huh.
religiosity and spirituality. Okay, then we are able to talk. not so much as we would like, and especially the importance of this dimension, not only for our psyche but for our bodies. Okay, that research are showing in the results and in our health, to our health.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Marcia and everyone, that of course they won't talk about the possibility that we bring stuff, issues from our past lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this is, we are getting there also, because there are a lot of studies and good research being done in this field. But Joanna, and here we can talk because we are here to expand our consciousness and to bridge spirituality and psychology.
Yeah.
Joanna says, and now I quote her: people become what they think. Look at how important to pay attention or on how we are thinking about ourselves and others, what they nourish mentally and work on until it becomes ingrained.
Yeah.
So it's stuck, it gets stuck with us. The way that we understand ourselves and others in a psychological manner. Unfortunately, she says, most people cherish, you were talking about the shadow,
Yeah.
cherish only negative ideas, pessimism, and malaise.
Yeah.
As a result, they weaken their moral resistance. And I think this has to do, as a result of burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
To weaken our moral resistance, they debilitate their spiritual qualities and feed off
Mm.
their own delusions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she goes on, there are some trials that are inevitable because they proceed from excesses in previous lifetimes. Nevertheless, through uplifting mental and humane constructions, they
Mm-hmm.
may be changed, mitigated, and even released because healthy acts garner merit for overcoming harmful ones. So she's, in a very simple way,
Mm-hmm.
it's simple, but it's very complex and very
Yeah.
deep. She is telling us that, first of all, we become what we think, and what we think, she has written in other parts of her works.
Mm-hmm.
What we think is charged with emotions and feelings,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we start living that reality, the way that we think about ourselves, and this like contaminates
Yeah.
all different parts of our daily life. Don't you think
And
so?
it's like a little bit of toxicity, right? Removing or attacking, I don't know if that's the best word, but really damaging our sense of balance, which leads to health and well-being. So those toxins or toxicities can really be everywhere, including our minds, right? How we see life, our I don't know, jealousy, or uh, I feel that you hurt me, you figuratively speaking, right? So Anahy, you upset me, you hurt me, so my reaction to that is, I don't know, bitterness or even revenge or in even sorrow. So that's all of those things that I'm feeling become toxins and really lead to a state of illness, right?
Yes, of course. I was listening to you, and well,
Hmm.
two things. One is that what you said is exactly the answer for
Mm,
that statement that you did. Why do we hurt ourselves so much with
yeah,
alcohol, abuse of alcohol, drugs, and this
yeah,
and that? If we are so happy, if that would,
uh-huh,
be so cool for our mental health, for instance,
uh-huh,
I wouldn't be addicted to that,
Yeah.
to a chemical stuff in my body, and I
Mm.
would be able to give this feeling of joy, let's say, to myself, with good music, with a talk with friends and family, with hugging
Yeah.
and with laughing together. Why do I need a chemical? Why do I need a lot of alcohol, for instance, to be able to do that? If I need something outside from my capacity, my ability, that's a
Hmm.
challenge for young people,
Yeah.
to trust in themselves, that they are funny, they are cool, they are smart, they have their inner light,
Yeah.
and they can have a great time just
Yeah.
being what they are.
Yeah.
So all of this environment that is contaminated by the collective shadow,
Yeah.
that it's this environment, mentally, I'm speaking not of nature, of course,
Mm.
but it's telling us all the time in the collective unconscious. We are uh, of course we share our experiences, as
Uh-huh.
Jung says, in the collective part of our unconscious, that we are not good enough, we are not funny enough, we are not pretty enough, we are not smart enough, we are not cool enough.
Hmm.
So if we lack so many things, of course, to we are going to struggle, like crazy. And
Hmm.
of course, probably a lot of people, because Joanna is saying we start having, affecting our moral ability, moral resistance. It comes to my mind, resilience. We talk a
Yeah.
lot psychiatry field about resilience. And
Yeah.
if I believe that I'm not good enough, that I have to go to a party and drink all night long
Yeah.
and use different drugs and this and that, and of course listen to bad music. I'm so sorry. I'm from another another time. But oh my goodness, some music that young people are listening, and
Uh,
there are studies about that. You can only listen if you have chemicals in your body,
wow.
because they are
Mm.
made to tune into chemicals, the effects that the
Interesting.
chemicals have in the
Yeah.
brain. We can talk
Yeah.
about that in another conversation.
Yeah. I'd
But
love to. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, because teenagers, they are so insecure, and it's okay, because it's a in the life
Hmm.
cycle. So this part of our lives, it's very challenging, because I'm not a child anymore, but
Correct.
I'm not an adult yet.
Yeah.
So I am in
Yeah.
the middle of things. And I sometimes I feel like when I was a child, and sometimes I think as the adult that I'm becoming, because I
Hmm.
can understand, wow, what this adult person is
Hmm.
telling me, it's not making sense, because he or she is not acting
Yeah.
according to what
The
she or he.
expectations or the expectations, right? Social expectations or whatever the demands of that external world or the external cultural norms, et cetera. And when we don't meet those, we are failing in a way, right?
Yes. So if we
Yeah.
understand that we are, even if we, for instance, people that are listening to us don't believe in reincarnation, it doesn't
Uh-huh.
matter. If the person believes that she or he has a higher consciousness, that
Hmm.
doesn't matter from where we come, but we are evolving, and we
Yes.
are spirits living in a material body and
Yeah.
having a psyche, a soul here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And having all these depths that we are talking about. And if the person believes that we are brothers and sisters, and then we are part of the same source that
Yeah.
is part of us also, and that is the source that creates light, love, and life, right?
Love
If
it.
the person
Yeah.
believes in that, it's good enough, because the person will understand what Joanna says when she says that from whenever whenever, and we have been before as spirits evolving,
Yeah.
we bring with us experiences and learnings and some things that we haven't yet learned. So of course we are going to have to live new experiences or relive some experiences to learn better.
Yeah.
That's good, I think, enough. And of course we are going to make mistakes, and
Yeah.
we are expected to make mistakes, but if we can be authentic with ourselves, if we can be in contact with what we really are deep inside, what we observe in ourselves, then it's all going to be, I can even learn math. I can even tell in my dream that I don't have to go because I have overcome that. And I understand that it's a symbol of the
Yes. I love it.
experience of my
Yeah.
mother. It's not my mom that I love, by the way,
Yeah.
but it's my inner child and the experience that I had when she didn't pay attention to me because she was in the math lab studying math as a professor. Then I
I
don't have to
love it.
wait.
I love it. Yes, it's circular, right? She was doing something which is awesome, but there are some repercussions to you. And today, the adult um, Anahy projects all that you saw into, in this case, math classes and all the resistance, etc., etc. So, folks, this is not easy to connect, but it's unfortunately all connected, right? And we are at time, and this is such a great conversation. And yeah, I want to say thank you. And for all of us who are here, wanted to leave with a few highlights. Regarding some holistic uh, health healing mechanism. Is that okay? Because we
Yeah.
all want to be healthy, right? So some of the things that exist that we can all do is number one is self-care, self-care practice. So let us all prioritize our physical health. And we can do this simply with regular exercise, um, meals that are nutritious, they nourish our body, enough hours to sleep, right? And even some self care rituals. We talked about a few here with meditation. It can be prayer, it can be mindfulness, or even yoga. All of those can help us in the self care. I mentioned already mindfulness, but in meditation, but those types of practices, they will help us reduce stress. So if you, like me, are struggling with the potential burnout, this is awesome. So let us deal with this mechanism, and it's free. It's free. You don't need to pay anything. Just meditate or learn to meditate or engage in mindfulness to help address stress, stressful situation, as well as the ability to learn how to improve our own emotional self-regulation, right? The calmness and even being present in the moment where everything is chaos otherwise, but you are the center of that is peaceful and calm. Another mechanism is emotional support, and I think you mentioned that already, Anahy. Right? Let us all learn to seek, learn to establish a social network that you can seek support. They can be your friends, family members, therapists. They all can be vital in helping us deal with our feelings and our stress. For some, there is group therapy, support group. They all are helpful for us. One that I guess I don't know how to do well, never been able to, but work-life balance, right? Let us learn to and be disciplined about establishing boundaries around work and personal life, right? And in an age that more and more people are working at home, working remotely, that is really tricky. You get up in the morning, you have breakfast, and boom, you're right there in your home office working, and it may be sometimes 11 p.m. and you're still there. And yes, I'm talking about a part of me that has done that a lot, but it's a part of me that is no longer cool with it, right? So let's start to even think about what are the boundaries of what you need to do. What are your work hours? Are we taking regular breaks? Are you making time to relax, to, I don't know, have a hobby, have a conversation, have that tete-a-tete, right? That face-to-face moments of professional or personal moments of intimacy. And by that, we don't mean sex, we just mean that eye to eye, that being a person close to the other. We can also, I believe, think about reassessing. Oh, what are goals, right? Is it to become so wealthy that I have to work day and night, or is it to be wealthy enough to meet our basic needs, right? So let's look at our personal values, our goals, and realign them with our lives. See what truly matters. And it may mean, and I know a lot of the younger generation, people that I know, are making very specific changes in their career paths, or even their work environment, so they can achieve a well balanced life. I'm almost finished. I'm thinking here, Anahy, that having creative outlets, right, invite not only creative activities, but also be around art. You mentioned earlier that seeking for art and things that make you feel good in a museum or creative writing or music. All of those things are quite therapeutical. um, Nature is also healing, right? There's research that talks about the significant boost in mental health and stress reduction just by being outside in nature, hiking or walking or just being around, surrounded by nature. And of course, professional help. Seek mental health professionals because they can help with manage, for example, burnout. But in addition to that, I just wanted to say those two things because they're part of what it's important for our program is spiritual practices, right? To explore our foundational spiritual practices or philosophies that can provide us with a sense of purpose, a sense of connection, right? And ultimately help us create or foster, augment our resilience with the issues that we go through. And final, it's all about gratitude. A lot of individuals are prescribing and or doing gratitude journal, right? Let us reflect on the positive aspects of life, because just by doing a click, a change in our mental framework, we can start to lose the stressors. So
Can
anyway,
I add one
yes,
more
yes,
to your
absolutely.
list?
Yes,
Just to show, because then Marcia can put in the this beautiful book,
yes,
Times of Health and Consciousness by Joanna de
yes,
Angelis,
yes,
and read inspiring books, especially Joanna, and
yeah,
reflect upon them because they connected to the sacred. And
yeah,
just to tell goodbye to everyone, I just want to read one sentence by
yes,
Joanna here that it's
hmm,
so beautiful. In she starts each chapter
yeah,
with it's like a poem, and
yeah,
she says in this, just to finalize, The
Mhm.
divine reality awakens me so that I may know myself, thus discovering and identifying myself. My quest is no longer clothed in illusion, but in the certainty of my next encounter with reality. I
Wow.
am what I am, on my way to being an ideal person.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for reading that.
You're welcome.
I think it's awesome. But for those of you who perhaps is coming to us for the first time, we are here in our weekly talks. Yes, every week we come back with the psychology and spirituality. And these episodes are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis. So this is just an invite for all of us to be able to expand our own spirituality concepts and just juxtaposing them with this psychological lens that we're talking about. And before we go, I want to say thank you our sponsors, Mansão do Caminho, United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil, the Brazilian arm of the Medical Spiritist Association. Hope you are back with us next time. But thank you. Thank you so much, Anahy, for being here with me and talking about holistic health. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you.